Well, if ever there was a time when we wish our show wasn't timely, it would be tonight, but it kind of seems like it is. I believe we had 3 calls for shootings in the city today. We've had at least a half dozen or so in the past week or so. Is something going on here? Is this statistically different than this time, say, last year, or is this a figment of our media attention right now?
A little of both. There has been an uptick, certainly in homicides in the city to this point this year compared with last year, something of an uptick. But I don't think we should make too much out of these relatively short-run trends. Anytime there's a shooting, anytime there's a homicide, it's obviously an important event. And not just the police department, but the community needs to be aware of it and to respond to it. But generally speaking, crime in St. Louis is down this year over last year, down this year over 5 years ago, down by more than half now compared to the early 1990s. So does St. Louis have a crime problem? Yes. Is the police department addressing it effectively? I think so, yes. And is the crime problem moving in the right direction? In other words, are we seeing crime rates decline over time? We are.
I want to ask you more about maybe the perception of these statistics you're talking about. I had the privilege of starting the day in a talk about entrepreneurship. Jim McKelvey, co-founder of Square, talking to a room full of business leaders about venture capital and other phrases they toss around in the tech and startup world. And the number one thing on his mind, crime stats in the city and region of St. Louis. He says, forget the politics, merge the city and county for the crime stats alone. Is that something that's of some value? We hear people talk about that.
I think so. Crime doesn't respect the city-county border. So persons who from St. Louis County or elsewhere in the region who are in the city can become the victim of a crime. St. Louis City residents are crime victims outside of the city elsewhere in the region. Crime certainly doesn't respect that border, nor should our crime statistics, in my view.
Okay, so people are talking about that very issue, and you've got Washington University students making videos about it. But what beyond the statistics do you wish that people knew that maybe isn't in this conversation?
Well, two things. First of all, that the overall trends are positive. Secondly, that the city police department, and later I think you'll hear about the county as well, but the city police department is engaged, in my view, in very effective strategies to reduce crime. Part of my job is to evaluate the effectiveness of those strategies, and what we found thus far is that the so-called hotspot strategies, where police are deployed to areas where crime is spiked or where it's heavily concentrated, those strategies work to reduce crime. It's a police department in which lots of officers will not be added in the near future. Budget is tight, and so it's a department that has to juggle a lot, keep a lot of balls in the air. But that strategy, the so-called hotspot strategy, in my view, is being applied effectively by the city police department. I'm not certain that's widely known.
But when you Google St. Louis, crime stats
Right.
still pop up pretty high up there.
Right. St. Louis has two problems in that respect. Like all big cities, we have a crime problem, and we have to address that problem. We also have a crime statistic problem, and that's a little bit different. Our crime statistic problem has to do with the fact that we are very, very tightly drawn central city, 76 square miles, in a metropolitan area of 2 million. And the city residents comprise only about 11% of the metropolitan area population. So to become a crime victim in the city of St. Louis, all you have to do is become a victim in the city. That's the numerator of the crime rate, the top part of the fraction. The bottom part is the city population. The city population is relatively small, certainly compared to the potential pool of victims from all around the region. That gives us a crime rate that is artificially higher than it would be in other cities, even cities much like ours, like Memphis. Memphis comprises a little over half of its metropolitan area. So we are, in some sense, disadvantaged by that geographic issue, and that's one area in which a city-county quote-unquote merger, at least with respect to crime statistics, could help a lot with our crime statistics problem. We do also have a genuine crime problem. I think it's important not to confuse the two. It's the crime statistics problem, unfortunately, that drives some of the negative perceptions, and some of those perceptions, I think, are baseless.